Thank you for joining me on the Eli frequency. You could have been anywhere in the world at this time, but you chose to spend this time with me, and I appreciate it. So as not to waste it, what we talking about? We are talking about our government and them bringing in the Clintons to testify in front of the Congress, and them not bringing the president in to testify, especially when he is mentioned the most in the Epstein files than anyone else. And their feedback being that he has spoken so many times to the press and etc. He's been so transparent. That's their explanation for not bringing him in, to have him give his testimony under oath. It's okay that he's giving information to the press where he could be lying or just making up things because he's not under oath when he's talking to the press. And it's a shame that there are people in America who are subscribing to a dictatorship. It's okay that these people know for a fact that there has been a huge pedophile ring going on with some of the richest people in the United States. And people are okay with that because they're choosing a side of the road to stand on. They're putting these criminal acts ahead of they're putting their party affiliation ahead of these criminal acts. Like grown adult powerful men. When I say powerful, I mean powerful as in job status or wealth. I don't mean power within, because none of them have that. But pretty much Republicans are taking the position that it's okay to be a pedophile and to be a powerful man having sex with children. As long as you're a Republican. And like I said, I'm not on either party. I despise them both. But to take the position that because these people who are engaging in criminal sexual activity with children, because they're of the same party as me, it's okay. That's the position that they're taking. How disgusting is that? And how can anyone be okay with that? Like, I feel like this is what America has come to. Nothing matters. Nothing is safe, even our children, if it's on my side of the court. There's nothing that can happen that is more disgusting than pedophilia. Even other criminals feel that way. Criminals in prison feel that way. That's why they beat up, rape, murder other criminals who have engaged or been locked up for that statute, for engaging in underage sex. They're not even safe in prison, but it appears that they're safe outside of prison as long as they are Republican. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever felt with regard to the country that we call the United States of America. Even other countries are prosecuting their people who were even associated with Jeffrey Epstein. They're being prosecuted. But here in the United States, the message is, as long as you're a Republican, it's okay. Doesn't matter about being with minors. As long as you are a Republican, Donald Trump, one of the most disgusting men the world has ever seen in every way, he'll protect you. So let's all bow down to this disgusting person and he'll protect us? Is that the feeling? Wow. It's just amazing. So I was listening to Brian Cohen, Tyler Cohen, who's a person who I usually go to listen to with regard to things happening in the news that are not of the urban quality, because that's I get with the T.I. and the 50 Cent and all these things within the urban community and urban culture. But I also am concerned with things on a broader scale that regular news media don't seem to be concerned with. So let's hear what Brian has to say about some of these issues.
Sure that I've seen one of Trump's efforts to deflect attention away from him on the Epstein matter backfire worse than this.
And finally, do you think that Donald Trump should be deposed by this committee?
Absolutely. I was a lawyer, and as a lawyer, you would look for pattern and practice. If you were deposing a witness in a case that you were trying, if you were in court, what did you know about this person? What you knew could influence how you questioned that person, how you tried the case. Donald Trump has been held civilly liable for sexual assault by a jury of his peers. 9 members of a jury found him liable in the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. That is behavior. That fits a pattern if one were looking for a pattern. He has also been convicted on 34 felony counts for attempting to hide his relationship with an escort and then to commit business fraud to prevent it from becoming public in the 2016 campaign, which was ultimately election interference. So if I were running the committee or I were involved in this investigation, I would be looking for people who maybe had some prior conduct that might be relevant to either money or crimes. And yes, I think that it would be in keeping with the scope of the investigation of this committee to set up a deposition with President Trump. I know he's been deposed many, many, many times. He's taken the Fifth Amendment many, many hundreds of times. So I'm not saying you're going to get a lot of information. But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
So you heard what Secretary Clinton had to say about that, right? And it's amazing because she never met Jeffrey Epstein, never flew on his plane, never been to his island. She had a relationship with Jesseline, or the lady. I forget. Yeah. but it was casual. 3 times she met her. But the person who was one of his best friends for a while, and who was mentioned more than anybody else in the Epstein files, they don't want to bring him to have a conversation with him. And so let's hear what Donald Trump has to say about his relationship or about the Epstein file, because he wants to just move on with it. Let's see here.
Not a Republican, it's a Democrat problem.
And his minions answer that call. James Comer and the...
So he's making it political, saying that it's a Democrat problem. How is criminal sexual acts with children from powerful men, wealthy, powerful men, how is that a party problem? How is that a Democrat problem? Let's say it were a Democrat problem. Let's say it were all Democrats who were accused of that. I can guarantee you that they would be bringing or prosecuting all of these people, all of the Democrats, if it were a Democrat problem. So does he mean it's a Democrat problem because those were the ones engaged in the criminal behavior? Because we know he can't mean that, because if he did mean that, they would definitely be prosecuting the Democrats, okay? Does he mean that they are the ones who have to prove that these men were engaged in these criminal activities? Because the Republicans are in power, so wouldn't they have to prove that? So either way you try to talk about it, it's not a Democrat problem. It's really a problem, a government problem, right? It's a humanistic problem, right? But who has the power and the authority to bring those problems, those issues to bear and make those people pay the price for their indiscretions? Who has the power right now to do that? The Republicans do, right? The Republicans have the majority, so they have the power to bring anybody responsible to the forefront. So how can anyone accept the group that has the majority and the power and the presidency? How can anyone who's hearing that accept him saying that, when we know for sure who has the power right now? It's just unacceptable for people to even hear that and accept that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. We've never had this. I just don't see how can anyone be proud that this is the person who is the president of the United States. Now, full disclosure, I did not vote this last election period. I didn't think there was any best option, so I didn't vote. So people can say it's partially because of me he won. I accept that. That's true. Like, I thought if he won, there's slightly the possibility. I thought things needed to be shaken up. So I said if he wins, I don't know, just things will be shaken up. I think everything had been so stagnant and frustrating for so long. whether it was Democratic president or Republican president. Nothing ever changed. When Barack Obama was president, the Republicans had the majority, so they did not let him do almost anything. And they came on record saying they were not going to allow him to do anything. Like, how can a group come on and say that and the public just be okay with it? Okay, never mind that. Push that aside, right? So now so I said things need to be shaken up, man, because things need to get better. And the only way they'll get better is if things start to break. So this elephant in a China house is definitely running around breaking things and smashing things to pieces. Most definitely, he's doing that. I had no idea it would be this off the rails. This is ridiculous. Our country is on the brink of destruction right now. And he just overtly lies about everything. The country was the worst it's ever been, and I came and saved it. I had the biggest, I only lost because of fraud, and no one's ever rescued or went into a country and took someone who was in control out the way that I did. Because Obama didn't do that, right? Bin Laden wasn't captured in the same way, right? That didn't happen. Everything he does is the biggest, the best, the biggest, everything. It's like he's a toddler because the only words he can find to describe anything he does is bigger. Big. It's going to be big. Big. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be the biggest. The biggerest. Huge. It's going to be huge. It's like a toddler. And he's enriched himself to the tune of $4 million or $5 million and an airplane while being in the White House. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Let's hear more.
For the strikes against Iran this week, the fallout over the Epstein files. As you well know, former President Bill Clinton testified before the House Oversight Committee behind closed doors, saying, quote, he had no idea of the crimes that Epstein was committing. Do you have any outstanding questions for President Bill Clinton about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Congressman?
When the transcript comes out, I think people will see that he answered every question. I actually think they'll see that some of the Democrats asked him tougher questions than even the Republicans. And he sat there. He didn't take the fifth. He answered every question fully. And the American people will be able to decide on what they believe. The point, though, is that President Clinton has set a precedent, a new Clinton rule. That means that Donald Trump should do the same, answer the questions. Howard Lutnick should do the same. I'm working with a Republican actually to subpoena Howard Lutnick next week, and I believe he will come before the committee. And every person who went to that island or who corresponded with Epstein about going to his mansion should be called under oath to tell us what they knew.
So you're going to subpoena Howard Lutnick. Do you plan to subpoena President Trump, and do you believe you have the votes to subpoena President Trump to testify before the committee?
We have the votes to subpoena Lutnick. I don't believe we have the votes right now to subpoena President Trump because the Republicans control the House, and I don't think they would vote with us on that. But when Robert Garcia is chair of the Oversight Committee, we will have those votes. And the Clinton rule means that Donald Trump and his family members should testify. By the way, he should do it voluntarily. I mean, he should look at what President Clinton did. He answered every question. Why can't Donald Trump do the same? There's this question question of these 3 FBI interviews. There's someone who made allegations against Donald Trump that she was sexually abused as a minor. I want to be very clear. There's no evidence whether that's true or not, but there were allegations made. One of those witness interviews was released. 3 of them are hidden by the Justice Department. Why are they hidden? When will they be released? These are the types of questions Donald Trump needs to answer.
And that followed.
So, let's just hear what the Republicans or the Democrats, after Clinton was brought in and she gave her testimony, let's just hear what the Democrats had to say with regard to that.
Republicans have now set a new precedent, which is to bring in presidents and former presidents to testify. So we're once again going to make that call that we did yesterday. We are now asking and demanding that President Trump officially come in and testify in front of the Oversight Committee. He appears in the Epstein files next to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell almost more than anybody else. So it's time for the president to answer questions about why files are missing from the DOJ, why there's been a White House cover-up, and why we continue in that administration to call this investigation a hoax. And finally, I'll review the call that we made yesterday that we are demanding, again, that the press and the public be allowed inside the depositions so that you can hear the answers and the questions directly. And if that's not going to happen, they need to release a full, unedited review of the questions and video within 24 hours of the end of these depositions. That means that the Secretary Clinton deposition needs to be released immediately today.
And
so the Clintons wanted to have a public deposition, and they would not allow that to happen. And at the same time, they started to leak photos. The Republicans started to leak photos of Hillary in her deposition as she was giving it, after they did not want to make it public. Like, these are high school games that people are playing with people's lives. It's ridiculous. And let's hear what Donald Trump had to say about this.
They certainly went after me a lot more than that. I don't like seeing them. Look, I like them, and I don't like seeing them deposed.
quote.
So he said he don't like seeing President Clinton deposed. He could have stopped it. He could have stopped it. But you know what? Better him than you, right? Better him than you. So just seeing everything happening, how can us as Americans, how can we be okay with having a president who wants to be in the news cycle every day of his presidency? It's just, he's like playing out Celebrity Apprentice in real time as the president of the United States. No other president wanted to be on the news, famous every day. But this person wants to be in the news cycle every day, all the time. And it's ridiculous. So let's listen to what the Republicans had to say with regard to Donald Trump. Since you heard Hillary say that the president should be brought in to answer questions, what does the Republicans have to say about that? Let's hear.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of questions from you all about Epstein, and
I think he's been very transparent in releasing the documents. We expect hopefully more documents to come in. We're still assessing the 3 million plus documents that we have. We obviously will be moving on to the next phase and bringing more people in for questions.
Okay.
So 3 million documents have been released, heavily redacted, and there are another 3 million documents that Pam Bondi said that she's not going to release at all. So they say transparency, but they have no problem lying to you. And how is it transparent when the president is being asked questions about it? And these are the answers he gives.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Sir, is there something incriminating in the file, sir? Why not acting as a...
I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people
like
who feel like they haven't gotten
healthcare,
justice, Mr. President?
something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to
are
the
so
survivors
bad.
who feel they haven't gotten
You are the
justice?
worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you. About the Epstein files, you know, I've been fully exonerated.
So apparently,
So just think about this. If any other man other than this loser would have said that to a woman, he'd be labeled a sexist. She's asking him questions about Epstein, and he's saying to her that she should smile more. And that's okay with some of you people living here in America for what we call a president to say to a reporter who's just asking the questions that we want to know the answers to. That's okay. This is okay. I've known you for 10 years and you never smile. You're a horrible person and reporter. You say you just make up lies. She didn't make up anything. She asked him a question. How is asking a question making up lies? A question is a question. You get to answer it. But people in America are okay with this. Like, this is how horrible some of our neighbors are. But you know, the interesting thing about it, let's say it was one of their daughters or their mother or their sister who they found out was involved in some of this criminal sexual behavior with minors. That they were the victims or survivors of some of that activity. Would they feel differently then? Would you feel differently if that were the case? So why is it acceptable if it's someone else's child? Just because you stand on one side of the fence or the other, that's why there's no credibility to me with anybody who says they're a Democrat or anybody who says they're a Republican. That just means you're in a gang and you're going to stay true to your gang regardless of the criminal activity or not. You're a Blood or Crip. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Because if you're going to have their back, if they're committing criminal acts, and you're going to stand behind them, ride or die all the way, you have no values. You are a person of no values. I've never joined a gang because I was never a follower. I could never be okay with people doing things that I don't agree with, that I don't submit to in my heart, that are not a part of my value system. And if you're in a gang, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with going against your own values, principles, and morals. As long as you're told to. Yes, I was in the military. But what do they stand on? Values, principles, and morals. Now, I don't agree with the military in all of its actions. But I do believe that they feel that they're fighting for their honor and for the honor of the United States of America. Sometimes they are told to do things for honorable purposes, but in reality, there's not honor behind what they're being led or instructed to do. Just like the war that I was involved in, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, or they call it the conflict. That was personal vendettas. That was the Bush family wanting some get back. Oil. But they sold it to us. They sold it to us. They got us behind them. There was 9/11. We got to get back. Right? I mean, Desert Storm, Desert Shield was before 9/11, but I'm saying when 9/11 happened, that was an excuse to get back, try out our new great weapons that we have. So to follow up with the news story, I just want to show you Brian Cohen as he is in a debate on a CNN panel to give you some of how some people just try not to let you say what is needed to be said. They try to cut you off. They try to say what they need to say, then move on. So they're not giving him a lot of an opportunity to speak, or they're definitely not answering the questions that he has. But I appreciate him because he stood his ground. So let's hear some of what he had to say.
President on the Epstein files in all presidential. How many Epstein files did Joe Biden release?
How
many?
There was an ongoing
How
investigation.
many Epstein files did Joe Biden release?
There was an ongoing prosecution in 2022.
How many did Obama release?
Wait. I mean, acknowledge what I just said. There was an ongoing investigation up to 2022 that was appealed, and that appeal ended in 2025 because there was an ongoing prosecution.
So let her finish her point.
So President Trump has been transparent about this. He has also been under the inquisition of the press, and everyone else that asked him a question, he has answered and answered and answered. Oval Office, press room, Air Force One, you name it, he's answering questions. How many times has Bill Clinton been asked by the conservative press or even the liberal media hard questions about the Epstein files? Zero.
You say that he's been the most transparent president in history. You've heard his answers. He's come out and said, are you still talking about the Epstein files? When a reporter on Air Force One asked him about the Epstein files, he called her piggy. When Caitlin Collins just a few days ago tried to ask him about the Epstein files, he attacked her and said that she should smile more. This is the transparency that you expect from the president?
The files released are the transparency.
We have 6 million files and 3 million are released. What about the other 3 million? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with 3 million files not being released?
Let's let the process tease out.
We've already learned from Todd Blanchard the process won't be teased out.
So that's what happens when people talk about transparency. Transparency means just putting something in front of your face and expecting you to move on. You ask them to see a document, they put a blank sheet of paper in front of your face and say, hey, here's the first page of the documents. You need to move on. People need to move on. So there's never going to be transparency about anything with regard to the Epstein files, especially in this presidency. I don't even know if they're going to do it in the next presidency. I don't know if the Democrats, if there's a Democratic president in the next cycle, I doubt if they do anything because, like I said before, this has to do with rich white men, powerful, rich, wealthy white men. And they are running your country. And you see what happens when they tell all the other white men, fall in line, fall in line. You see what happens when Donald Trump demands that everybody falls in line. Everybody, all these white men fall in line. And you know what I'm starting to notice? That they're putting all these white women, they're putting them out in front. Have you noticed that? They're putting all these white women out in front to mascot for them. It's interesting to see this. I've never seen so many white women talking about these things ever. You know why? Because it desensitizes you. If it were men talking about we need to move on, we need to stop talking about Epstein, it's intentional, right? But you have white women saying the president said everything, he's transparent, we need to move on, we need to stop asking about this. If white women are saying this, and most of these are attractive white women, if they're saying this, it's a little softer. It's the kid gloves. It gets people to say, yeah, there's nothing here. Maybe we do need to move on. Think about that. If a white man is saying that, other than Trump, because everybody's following under him, he's their leader. So if a white man is saying we need to move on and stop talking about these kids who were sexually abused and exploited by these white men, everybody will look down on that. But if you hear and see these white women doing it, it's just different. And I think this is intentional because I figured it out. How can they not? So in a world that evolves in all ways, make sure that your foundation is eternal love always. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and hit that thumbs up, that notification bell, so you can be notified when I'm on the frequency. And until then, Eli. Frequently. Peace. You looking good, ma. How you doing?
I'm fine.
That's good. My name's CDN. What's your name?
My name's Hadilla.
It's a beautiful name, but I just call you Hot.
I guess you can.
So what would it take for a man like me to get with a woman as fine as you?
You really want to know what it takes to get with a girl like me?
For sure. Your gravity, bringing them strings. Yeah, let's add some emotion to this scene.